Hey there, what's up? You are inside of Stress Talk Live with Marcyline. And what are we going to talk about today? Compassion. What else? And we're going to do so in just one moment. Hi there, how are you? I'm so glad to see you today. You are inside of Stress Talk Live with Marceline. I know I wasn't on last week because, well, we were celebrating fathers. It was Father's Day. So today we're going to pick up where we left off. And I'll do a little review to bring you up to speed if you weren't with us 2 Sundays ago, and also to refresh your memory if you were with us and take you into our topic after that. But first, before I get to that, as always, I'm going to ask you to like, follow, and subscribe to ML Bailey Consultants on Facebook and Instagram. You can find me there at ML Bailey Consultants. Also, if you're looking for more information, just go to this link. It is my tap link and it has links to lots of different things, including our newsletter, Stress Talk in Print. And guess what? You can also sign up to be on the waiting list for our meditation classes, which I'll be sending out information in the near future about. Finally, here's my website, mlbaileyconsultants.com, where you'll find a little bit more information about me. I'm so glad that you joined me today. Hey, what's been happening in your world? What are you doing? Are you doing anything special to take care of yourself or to treat yourself? We all need that. We do. We need that. We need to be able to treat ourselves and treat ourselves with kindness. Yeah, doing something special for ourselves. That's important. So, what have you been doing? It's been real hot where I live. It's like when you walk outside, you're walking into an oven. That's how hot it's been. And it's not just like that during the middle of the day at like 12 noon. It's like that at night too, 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. I don't know what that means, but I do know that um, it's been a heater, and this is we're at near the end of June, so we're not even into the dog days of summer. But you're not here to chit chat with me, although you can drop your comments in the comment section. I'd love to see them. I'd love to hear from you. And even if you're watching on the replay, drop your comments in the comments section. I love to hear what you're thinking. You can also, just so you know, I do broadcast on live on Facebook. You can find a link to the replay on, I'm sorry, I broadcast live on Facebook and on YouTube. And you can find a link to the audio podcast on LinkedIn, usually the next day. So on Mondays, you can if you follow me on LinkedIn, you'll find the link to the audio podcast. The other thing is, if you are part of on my subscriber list, you will get also a link to the podcast in via email. So I want to make sure that you know all of the places you can find Stress Talk Live. Well, let's get to our topic at hand, shall we? Okay. First, let me put this up. There we go. this is the topic. This is what we're talking about today: compassion. And I do believe that compassion is like an anchor. It is an anchor. And for any woman out there who wants to live mindfully and have a mindful lifestyle, compassion is an anchor for that. And as you know, anchors hold us in place, right? It keeps us from going um, veering off course. It keeps us in one place so that we can, until we get ready to move and navigate in the direction that we want to go in. So it is important. Anchors are very important. And for a mindfulness lifestyle, compassion is key. At least that's what I think. And we're going to talk about why that is and what compassion is about. But the first thing that I'd like to do as we're talking about compassion is the first anchor women embrace for mindful living. I want to talk to you and share with you a review of what we discussed a couple of weeks ago. If you recall, I talked about loving kindness. And when I introduced this topic, I introduced it in connection with compassion. I said, oh, we're going to talk about loving kindness and compassion. And our discussion went a little longer. When I was talking about loving kindness, it just kind of went a little longer than I had anticipated or expected. And I said, okay, we'll do a part two. Well, this is our part two today, where we're going to talk about compassion. But I want to do a brief overview about loving kindness. So, when we're talking about loving kindness, we're talking about a feeling of warmth or an expression of warmth, friendliness, goodwill. It could also be defined as benevolence or just mere kindness. It's being able to extend or express warmth and friendliness towards others. When we speak of loving kindness in the context of mindfulness and mindfulness meditation, we're talking about a sincere wish for the happiness and welfare of other people. And so, and what that means is, it's actually, I want you to have good things happen to you. I want good things to be in your life. I want things that bring you joy and peace and happiness to be in your life, right? So it is a sincere wish for the happiness and the welfare of others. And what that looks like in practice, I shared with you the metta meditation practice, and we actually did it, or I demonstrated it um, at the end of our talk last week, right? So the metta meditation practice is also known as the loving kindness practice. And in the metta meditation practice, this is where we start with shamatha, which is calm abiding. It's a short mindfulness meditation. And then we move into extending and offering wishes to others. First, we generate positive wishes for people that we love. That could be family members, it could be close friends, it could be our pets, even, right? People that we love. It could be ourselves. And then next, we extend positive or generate positive wishes for ourselves. Next, we generate positive wishes for people we don't have any feelings about. These are people who we're neutral towards. It could be someone like our postman, our postal person, someone who helps us in the grocery store. Let's see, someone who we talk to on the phone, a customer service rep. It's someone who we don't have feelings about either way. We don't have any harsh feelings for, or we don't have any loving feelings for. They're just people that we know, or maybe not people we know, but people we just don't have any feelings about. Then the fourth category is generating positive feelings for people with whom we have difficulty. And I'm sure all of us can come up with a list of those people that we have difficulty. Basically, when we're doing meditation, we're wishing for things for a person, for these categories of people. First, we wish them to be safe. Then we wish them to be happy. We wish them to be healthy. And we wish them to be at ease. And there's a whole process too, or I shouldn't say process, but there's a whole practice that takes us through generating positive wishes for those four categories of people, and then generating those four wishes. As I shared with you before, I am certified to train and to teach meditation. And I'm also certified to teach mindfulness meditation as well. So, loving kindness, again, is the sincere wish for the happiness and welfare of others. And it's actually where we generate warmth and friendliness or goodwill. We share that with others. So, that's an important piece. And I know a lot of you say, well, I do that. So, but compassion is different, and it is different. Before we talk about compassion, however, it is important for us to talk about why it's important to extend compassion. And that's because of suffering. Now, the definition of suffering, our view of suffering, let me start there. Our view of suffering is can vary depending on who you are and your orientation in the world or your orientation to the world. I like to share the definition of suffering or the description of suffering that the Buddha shared. The Buddha shared this definition of suffering. He said that the absence of peace is suffering. To me, that's such a profound statement. The absence of peace is suffering. So it puts it in a different context than what people in the Western world or in the United States thinks of suffering. I think that here in the States where I live, the United States where I live and where I grew up, and the place I call home, here we consider suffering to be the absence of things, the absence of comfort, the absence of material things, the absence of wealth. We consider that to be suffering. And because of that, we look at countries or other areas that may not have the material contents that we have in the United States, and we consider people who live in those countries as suffering. We look at them and say, "Oh, they're suffering because they don't have air conditioning, right? In this heat." Or if our air conditioning goes out, we consider ourselves as we're suffering because we don't have air conditioning. And to a certain extent, that is true because we we don't have peace at that time. We may not have peace at that time. But when we think about the absence of peace is suffering, that to me puts it in a totally different context, because it is not about, it's not only about what I have and what I don't have materially. It's not about how much money I have or how a few dollars I have, right? It's about having a peace or a centeredness that no matter what goes on in the world around me, I can stand and not feel as if I am out of control or I'm about to fall or my life is awful, right? And this is how I view it. But I think it is very interesting that he said the lack of peace is suffering. Because imagine, there are people who are millionaires, multimillionaires, people who are billionaires, and they don't have peace. Peace is not something that you can buy. Peace of mind is not something that can be purchased. Peace of heart, peace in your heart, is not something that can be taken from somebody else. It's something that is cultivated from within. And it's not about what you have, what you don't have. It's about having a centeredness within yourself, as I said before. And we can see people, we see them all the time on TV, right? In the news, people who have abundance and yet they don't have peace. And we can see people who don't have abundance and they have peace. So when I talk about compassion, or when I start to talk about compassion, I want you to keep in mind that the absence of peace is suffering. Another thing that I'd like to share with you as it relates to suffering is that suffering is contagious. It is. And let's say that I had a bad day at work. And so my peace is gone. I don't have peace because I'm agitated, I'm frustrated, I'm angry, I'm hurt, I don't have peace. Now I may come home, and because I had this bad day and I'm suffering based on our definition of the absence of peace is suffering, I may come home and because I am suffering within, I'm frustrated, I'm agitated, I'm angry, I'm hurt, I'm experiencing all of those things, I may take it out on those in my immediate area. Okay? So if I have a bad day and I'm experiencing those things, I may take it out on the person I see in the grocery store because I had a bad day. I may come home and take it out on my family because I had a bad day. And what does that create? It's a chain reaction or a ripple effect where I had a bad day, I take it out on the person in the grocery store, that person then has a bad day or is frustrated because of how I interacted with them, and they may do the same to others. It's a ripple effect. I come home and I take it out on my family members, start of the ripple effect, and they may in turn take it out on others. We have to remember that when we suffer and we extend that suffering to others, they suffer and may in turn extend it to other people too. It's a ripple effect. A ripple effect. We can change that by extending compassion. Compassion is a ripple effect as well. We also have to remember that in mindfulness, when we think about mindfulness, and as I've shared before, and as you begin to develop a mindful lifestyle, everything is interconnected. Everything is interwoven. We're interconnected. When others suffer, we suffer. When others suffer, we suffer too. How so, Marcy? Because of that ripple effect, because of the chain reaction. And we have to remember that everything is interconnected, that we are connected. I've shared this before. That's very important, especially as we talk about extending compassion to others. So let's talk about compassion a little bit. We did a review of loving kindness. We also talked about suffering and built a context for our discussion on compassion. So let's talk about compassion, okay? So what is compassion? Compassion involves seeing, feeling, wishing, and doing. It's a desire. It's loving kindness in action. It's that warmth, it's that friendliness, it's the benevolence that we extend to others, but it's in action. We take action. Compassion basically is a desire to dispel the suffering of other people. When we see people who are grumpy, or people who appear to be angry, or people who appear to be frustrated, we can extend compassion to them as a way to dispel their suffering. Because remember, if they're feeling that, they're suffering because they have no peace. Their peace is gone. Their peace is gone. So extending compassion is an action that we take to dispel their suffering. So how do we do that? Does it mean that I have to fork over, take my wallet out and start doling out money? No, it doesn't. It doesn't mean that. It could mean that, but it doesn't have to mean that. What it means is recognizing that when a person does not have peace, they are suffering, and we can dispel that suffering with a quick smile, a genuine smile, with a genuine, hey, how are you? With a, I'm glad to see you today. How you doing? A short conversation. Holding the door open for someone. It could be simple. But it could also mean providing good counsel. Providing good counsel. Setting boundaries. Creating structure. Compassion could mean those things as well, as a means to dispel the suffering of others. We also have to consider compassion in terms of ourselves. We're probably harder on ourselves than anybody could be. We're harder on ourselves. We critique ourselves harshly. We're judgmental of ourselves. Sometimes we just need to extend ourselves some compassion. We need to take action to relieve our own suffering and to regain the peace that we lost. Okay. So, how do we do that? Compassion requires awareness, and that is why we meditate. That's why we do mindfulness meditation, because that increases our awareness. It makes us aware of our preconceived notions, the things that we hold on to that may or may not be factual, our ideas about things that may or may not be true and may or may not be factual. It opens our awareness to that, to our preconceived notions. It also opens our awareness to the patterns of reactions, our patterns of reactivity, how we react to things, how we react to the way someone talks to us, how we react to different people, how we react to situations. It opens our awareness and enables us to change if we need to. Compassion also requires us to understand that if we do what we've always done, we'll always get what we've always gotten. Have you heard that phrase before? If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always gotten. Basically, what that means is the habits and our habitual patterns will always get us the same results. So we need to understand that. We need to understand that when we are frustrated and angry and we act a certain way, we're always going to get the same results from that. And that's going to come back to us. But if we lead with compassion and loving kindness, and we extend that, that's what's going to come back to us. The other thing about compassion is that we also need to understand that there's impermanence in the world. Nothing stays the same. Nothing stays the same. Everything changes. Conditions change. The conditions that cause me to be angry and frustrated change, right? And so we can be compassionate. We can extend compassion knowing that it's not going to be that way all the time. That this too shall pass, in other words. Yes? Yes. So we've been talking about compassion. Our topic for today is compassion is the first anchor women embrace for mindful living. And it is because it holds us steady. It doesn't allow us to veer off in a direction that we don't want to go. And although we may rock with the waves, we're not moving anywhere. We're going to stay in that same place until we raise anchor and we go in the path that we chose to go, in the direction that we chose. And in talking about this, I reviewed loving kindness, which is what we talked about 2 weeks ago. I shared a little bit about suffering. Remember that the absence of peace is suffering. The absence of peace is suffering. And then I talked about compassion and how important compassion is. Because just as frustration and having a bad day is a ripple effect, or suffering can be a ripple effect, compassion can be a ripple effect too. And it can create a chain reaction. We can change things. We can really change the world by extending compassion to others as well as to ourselves. Well, that's all for now. That's all I got for you. I hope you join me next time as we continue our discussion about mindfulness and mindfulness living here on Stress Talk Live with Marcyline. Take good care.